fakes the one-timer. Now a shot, score, a goal, and Massachusetts takes the lead.
And welcome into another episode of the NewMass Minute, talking puck here from the Mullen Center. My name's Jay Burnham, voice of the Minutemen, alongside all-around sports nerd, my good buddy Nathan Strauss, and broadcast partner. How you doing?
Are you saying that because of the text I sent you last night in Triple OT? Because I totally deserve it for that.
It's that, it's Russian League hockey, it's Premier League soccer, it's all the above. So
I'm
we're
just happy
fortunate
that we
to
got you
plug in.
aboard the Premier League soccer train. Like
I
that's
know,
the
yeah.
biggest.
Go
You've
Hammers.
rubbed off on me. You've made me a better broadcaster, more social, more aware of social issues, and I've made you a soccer fan. So it evens out.
It's a tit for tat here. So thanks so much. And we've got a lot to cover. Massachusetts hockey is coming off a weekend split against Northeastern. They're going into a weekend against Merrimack. Still very good where they sit in the pairwise. A lot to cover here. Our guest this week will be Jillian Jakuba, who is the defining authority on UMass hockey. So excited for your conversation with her. She's our conduit to the program.
Yeah, I mean, she is. If you don't know her, then you know her work
Right.
because she has been around, for over a decade at this point. With UMass hockey, she knows everything about every single player and is so nice and kind and important to this program. Like she would hate that I'm gassing her up like this, and she doesn't even want to do this. Like I've said,
Get to
she
twist
said,
her arm. Yeah.
"Do I asked her, I said, do you want to come on? She said, do I have to? And I said, I'll be really nice to you if you do. So, but no, she's great. And there was a great feature on her in the Hockey East magazine last month, and someone who deserves far more flowers than she gets. So excited to
Yeah.
talk to her.
I think folks probably just, if they haven't met her, they know her social media work, they know her information work, they know a lot of the stuff from the hockey accounts come from her. And I think it'll be fun to have her actually voice, her background and kind of how long she's been here and the impact that she's had. So excited for that. But first, I saw this. I've deleted Twitter from my phone. My life has been so much better since I've done that. But I'll get on my laptop and I'll look, and I can't remember who to attribute the stat to. 20 of the top 27 teams in Hockey East, 11 of those, or of the top 27 teams in the country, Hockey East is within that bubble, all 11 teams. I mean, just an unreal start to the season, right? We're over halfway through now, stretch for Hockey East to be that dominant.
Yeah, there was a time after Friday's games where Hockey East's lowest ranked team was above the highest ranked team in two other conferences. I mean, you look at the graph of where Hockey East teams are right now, and it's unbelievable. Basically, every other team in the top 25 is a Hockey East team. And it bodes well for the league because it means that, first of all, every win is important out of conference for the league, but also it means that you don't drop a ton
Right.
when you lose in league play as well. And, UMass jumped up from 22nd to 17th after the road win on Friday, but they didn't drop after the home loss on Saturday at all. So the league is solidifying itself as, for the second straight year, the most competitive and deepest league in the country, which is great for UMass. It's great for the league and great for the sport.
We'll talk about the upcoming series home and home against Merrimack, top 25 team, 25th in the pairwise. But before we get to them, let's rewind a little bit to last weekend. You go down to Matthews Arena in Boston. You smoke the Huskies 5-0 in the opener of that series. And Daniel Yenchko gets involved as he's made his way back and solidifying himself from not only the injury but the World Juniors. What did you take away from that 5-0 performance for UMass last Friday?
Yeah, I mean, it was as good a game as UMass has played all year, really. Like UMass just came out firing. They scored a goal in the first 4 or 5 minutes of every period. Northeastern, I think Northeastern was struggling as much as UMass was playing well. Like there was a lack of connectivity from their game, but UMass, it was a very pro UMass crowd. Like I said, conservatively 60-40 UMass Northeastern, but there was a great event put on by the Alumni Association right down the street before the game. The Pond Club was there. There was the watch party out in Western Mass as well. And it really felt like a home game. And UMass UMass had won 10 of 11 against Northeastern before that game. It was not particularly close. UMass played great, basically from start to finish. Mercury had an outstanding game. Michael Frabel was unbelievable, with a shutout and a quiet 41 save shutout. There's a lot of stuff at the perimeter, but that was as good a game as UMass has played against the Northeastern team that had just dismantled Quinnipiac, the week before.
Yeah, and Northeastern, looking at that box score, had the advantage in terms of power plays as well. There was a great setup goal for Cole O'Hara after Yenchko got the scoring going, and then, I think you go on the road. We talked last week. Okay, how many points ideally are you gonna be happy with? You come back home and can't get it done, losing 3-0. Another great performance from Robble in net. It feels weird. Maybe this speaks to the difficulty of Hockey East, where you win on the road and lose at home, and any given night, it's anybody's game.
Yeah, and I think, Northeastern played really well on Saturday night. Like the Saturday night's game was a case of UMass didn't play great, but they didn't play poorly. And sometimes teams lose games rather than win them. This was a case of Northeastern winning the game, not UMass losing it. Like Northeastern played a very connected game. They made things difficult for UMass. UMass had some chances. They gave up 2 goals from places where they wouldn't want to give up goals from. And on a typical night when you're scoring 3.5 goals per game, that's probably enough to get you to overtime. And
Yeah.
instead you end up shut out. And that's a different story. But again, as far as pairwise goes, as far as Hockey East goes, not a terrible weekend whatsoever. And again, this team is capable of those 5-0 games like they had on Friday, and that is more important. Especially the next 5 games, which I'm sure we're going to talk about. Merrimack times 3 and Alaska times 2. If you can take 3 wins in an overtime win or
Yeah.
4 wins out of those games, all of a sudden you're looking at you know, you're looking at Maine,
You
BC,
see.
UMass Lowell, UNH to wrap things up. Those are games that then become, not win and in, but certainly you're getting close, right? So
Yeah.
big 5 games coming up
It,
next.
and I think, do you feel like you're a better team now than you were early in the season when you lost to Sacred Heart, when you gave one away to UConn? UMass 10-9-2 on the season, just 3-6-2 in conference play. And I just wanted to go back to that Friday game. Here's my carved quote of the week. He said, "I'm very happy with the execution of the game plan tonight. The compete level was high all the way through the lineup. I love the way we played, and then behind it all was Michael Robble, who looked like his game has taken another step since coming back from World Juniors." Now, that was before the loss on Saturday, so feelings shift day to day, but that quote hits, I mean, all through the lineup, and then praise of Michael Robble in terms of taking another step forward. As you mentioned last week, only 20 years old. I thought that was pretty powerful for him to acknowledge those two things.
Yeah, and Michael Rabel, he was assertive, I think. And even on Saturday's game, I thought he played pretty well. And he ends up being the Hockey East goalie, or rather, Hockey East defender
Defender,
of
yeah.
the week. Alvin Boya of Maine gets goalie of the week. But UMass comes off a weekend where Jackson Irving gets Hockey East goalie of the week. And then they get the second highest draft pick in program history back from World Juniors. And he turns around and shuts out Northeastern on home ice and stops 41 shots. Like, he's deserving of that praise, and he's looking confident. And he was going up against a fellow sophomore, a fellow drafted player, Cam Whitehead from the Golden Knights, who Northeastern fans thought should have gotten that all conference award last season, the second team all conference over Grabble. So there was definitely a statement of intent there. And again, he's been really, since I would say that UVM series in early November, he's been one of the premier goalies in college hockey, and he ends up, making the long list for the Richter Award, one of 5 Hockey East goalies to do so. That was announced yesterday.
77 saves for Robble over the weekend against Northeastern. That was his second shutout. You mentioned Jackson Irving. I actually talked to Robble and Yenchko earlier this week for the TV show coming up at the end of the month about kind of having to play each other in the World Juniors and coming back for Robble and being able to acknowledge to Irving, hey, great job, in my stead, and kind of filling in there and picking up his first shutout and victory for Massachusetts. So it feels like, can you get moving here into this, as you mentioned, this stretch of games? Merrimack, never easy. they've done a great job in recent history of keeping games close. Always difficult to win there. They are 4-6-1. They split last weekend with a 5-2 win at BC, which is huge for the program. 25th in the pairwise for Merrimack. So how do you go in on Friday and then you've got Saturday at home here? How do you go in and come away with some points?
I mean, UMass and Merrimack has been one of the most consistent close series
Yeah.
ever in UMass history. 10 of the last 11 games have been decided by just one goal between the two of them, which is there was a stretch of 10 straight games. Sorry, it's 11 of 12. Going into last year, there was a stretch of 10 straight games that were one goal games, including 5 OT
Over
games.
to
So
yeah, yeah.
Merrimack has not changed their style of play at all under Scott Borek.
Work, yeah.
And that's great because they play on the smallest ice in the conference, in the smallest arena. It feels like it's coming down on top of you. It's awesome. And weirdly enough, UMass has done really well on those small rinks away from home this year. And Merrimack is always one of the oldest teams in the conference. They typically have outstanding goaltending. The last 2 years, it's been Hugo Olas and Zach Borgiel, but Olas is now with Hartford because he signed his deal with the Rangers, and Borgiel now backs up Philip Svedback at Providence. So goaltending's been an issue for them. And that, I think, has shown that good goaltending will paper over some of the cracks. They don't score a ton. Their special teams isn't great. But what they do have is age, physicality, and the ability to surprise you with their compete, which is what happened last week when they scored 5 straight goals at BC to take the split. So I think this matchup is really, really strongly favoring the way UMass has played this year. Merrimack has been a tough opponent for the Minutemen in the past, but stylistically, UMass has played well in these kinds of games, and it would be huge to come away with the majority of the points
Right.
this week to kind of get back on track before hosting Alaska for 2.
I'm with you. I'm thinking of that overtime game a couple years ago here at the Mullen Center, UMass winning
Is that
that
your Taylor
one.
McCarr goal?
Taylor McCarr hit a connected on a game-winning goal. But just every one is just feels like tooth and nail. So it should be fun. And I mean, real pivotal. Yeah, you've got 25 or 17. Can you boost your status a little bit? You can, especially if you're able to go down there and get a W.
And here's the weird thing. Again, it sort of comes back to how Hockey East is doing. UMass, if they win both games, do not actually move up in pairwise at all until other results happen. If you lose both games, you're down at 24. So you need to win these games and then get help from elsewhere to move up. That's just how, because of how strong Hockey East is right now. And of course, other results matter a lot. You know, teams losing will move you up just as much as you winning will. But really, more importantly, is this team is better than a 500 team, but you lose Friday and all of a sudden you're 10-10-2 and
Yeah.
you are what your record says you are. So you want to make up some ground. You want to get back into the middle of the pack, upper middle of the pack in Hockey East. And Merrimack, a team that on paper has one drafted player. You want to go out there and take your game to them and use your speed and also, figure out how to win at home because 2 wins on home ice this year, even though in a couple of those games, UVM and Sacred Heart, you outshoot, you outcreate your opponent 2-1, you still got to figure out a way to put the nail in the coffin. So I think you'd like to get points on Friday, but you really want to win here on Saturday too, just to show that you can before, 3 straight home games after. So I'm sorry, after Friday's game, you have 4 straight home games. Merrimack at home, Alaska for
Alaska.
2, Merrimack at home again. You want to win those games. Like you have to.
You want to win them
Sorry,
all.
not the most. Yeah.
Our
But you
biting
want to win them all.
analysis. You really want to win the games. No, but I think it's a point taken, and yeah, you want to elevate your status in the standings, set yourself up nice for the conference tournament as well, and obviously still a long way to go. Okay, we will enjoy your conversation with sports information director. I'm not sure her official title anymore. I don't know anybody's titles at UMass, so forgive me. She is the go-to for all things UMass hockey, Jillian Jakuba. And Nate, good luck this week, and we'll catch you on the radio 6:30 on Friday and Saturday, or TV2 on Saturday, right?
Yeah, TV Saturday
That's right.
at 7, radio 6:30, and then so on and so forth.
And Donnie Morehouse will be with you out at Merrimack. Should be fun. All right, I will step aside. Here's our conversation with Jillian Jakuba.
Welcome back. The NewMass Minute, as promised here
with Director of Communications, Jill Jakuba. And Jill, you're not going to know this until you listen to the full episode, but Jay and I hyped you up pretty good in the first segment. And I know that you hate speaking in public. You hate doing stuff like this. So thank you for doing it anyways.
Oh, I'm always happy to help the cause when I can.
For people who don't know you, can you give sort of the blanket overview of what your job actually entails?
So, well, nowadays with social media, it's branched out into various things, but the basically an SID, which is the old-fashioned term, does everything between coordinating player coach interviews with media, producing game notes, and providing information for the broadcasters for every game, and controlling everything that's on the website, to record books, to tracking player milestones. And then once social media became a thing, then it was also managing all those team accounts, helping either generate ideas for content, or even now, producing some of the content when we aren't able to travel with lovely members of our creative staff.
There have been times this year out in Arizona, out in Las Vegas, where you've been not only writing the game recaps and doing the game notes, also gathering the lineup cards from each team and sort of giving them to the people who need them, like broadcasters or our coaching staff, but also shooting photos, editing photos, making the score graphics, tweeting clips, and then also coordinating post-game media. There's a saying in the industry, other duties as assigned. And I feel like you in particular really vibe with that other duties part, because I've seen you pull up directions for bus drivers. I've seen you help give people rides when they drive to the wrong rink. There's a little bit of kind of shepherding that you have to do as well.
Yeah, and I would credit that to my former supervisor, my mentor, Jason Yellen, who I would consider the master of multitasking. Because if anybody has ever seen a scorebook that he's done for basketball, it's a work of art. Because when I had basketball, I had a hard enough time just putting down who scored and, keeping up with how many fouls and all that. He literally has notes of like what the basket was and all this. That was in the meantime while writing a recap and doing all that. So he's obviously my mentor for a reason. And a lot of the multitasking, doing whatever we can, customer service side, I learned from him.
Very quietly, this is year 17 for you at UMass. And I say very quietly because you don't make a big deal out of anything. You don't make a big deal out of your own accomplishments. You make a big deal out of others, which is a great quality to have. But why was athletic comms the path that you chose? And obviously, I know that your playing career as a hockey player, but walk me through why how you got into this industry and to UMass.
So I was in high school. I loved sports. Growing up in the New York tri-state area, there was always something on, whether it was Jets, Giants, Mets, Yankees, Devils, Rangers, Islanders. Like, it was hard pressed to find a night where there was not some kind of sports broadcast on. My mother had WFAN on in the house when she was home 24/7. Like, sports talk radio was just in my life. When my mom was at work and I was at my grandparents', my grandfather was a huge Yankees fan. We watched every game together. Even when I went away to college, I would call him after playoff games. We would dissect everything that we saw. So that was basically my whole love of sport. My dad is a pretty big Rangers fan, but I kind of found hockey myself because I would want something on, and there were 3 teams that were always on our TV. And then it was like, when I decided what I wanted to do when I went to college, I originally wanted to be a sports journalist, but I had been awarded a work study grant at Boston University, and they had you fill out sort of a questionnaire of like what your interests were. And so I put sports as the top one. I was randomly placed in the SID office, something that I didn't even know existed. And I'm like, wait, this is so much better, because it wasn't just writing, which I honestly didn't even enjoy that much, especially on like the actual journalism, feature type writing story. That wasn't what I enjoyed. I enjoyed just being around the games and the action and, being a part of all that. And I was like, wait, this is, every day seems to be different. There's all these other elements to it. And so within the first semester as a freshman, I changed my major to public relations, which wasn't really that big of a, it just was a matter of your concentration within college of communications at BU. But yeah, that's basically, it was a little bit of a luck of the draw that I found this.
And then you get to UMass, and I think people know you for hockey because now you have been basically the source, the encyclopedia of UMass hockey for over a decade now at this point. And you've had players who have won Stanley Cups who have interned for you. You've had all kinds of relationships with players and coaches, and everyone seems to rely on you a lot. But take me through some of your top memories, with this UMass hockey program.
Oh my gosh. Like, this is so, after we won, obviously the national championship's got to be the pinnacle, right? Like, there's so many people that work so hard and have been in this industry for so long, or go their whole career without being a part of a national championship. So like, for that, I'll be grateful for that my entire life. But obviously the first run to the Frozen Four was so kind of unexpected, and such a turnaround in a year's time. That was like a fairy tale. And and also being able to, honestly, I always tell anybody that, like, anybody could have run a successful Hobie campaign for Cale Makar. Come on. But to be a part of all the creative sides that go into a Hobie campaign, and then to see your player up on the stage winning the most prestigious award in their sport, like, between that and the national championship, it's like, how can you get any better? But there's so many other, like, just little moments throughout my career, hockey or not, that have been made UMass so special to me, and where I hopefully, if I'm fortunate enough, will spend the rest of my SID days until it's time to retire.
There was a great feature in Hockey East magazine that came out last month that people can find, and it sort of details a lot of what you're saying here about your path and sort of your motivations for being in this field. I wanted to share my favorite Jill Jakuba story.
Oh no.
Which is, there are a couple good ones. So one of your roles, and one thing that Greg Carville is really good at, is working with student media, because as with every college sport, student media comprises a big part of the coverage. The problem with student media, and I'm speaking from personal experience here, is that sometimes we don't know what we're doing. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, Jill. But every once in a while, it causes more harm than good. And I was wondering, Jill, if you could share, what it's like trying to wrangle well-intentioned, bright, passionate, and occasionally erroneous student media, broadcasters, journalists, and the like, because it's such an important relationship that you and the coaching staff has fostered between the Collegian, MUA, so on and so forth.
I think everybody at the university working for an institution of higher education is contributing on some level. Even if you're not a professor, you're contributing to someone's education in some way. And that might be our student assistants that work in our office. It's everybody. It's the student athletes that we interact with. It's the student media. Like, it's our it's our responsibility to help sort of guide everybody along and, foster their development. You know, even though we're not professors, but everybody that works in athletics is influencing someone's education in some way or another. So that's kind of just how I see it. It's just another area. So, student media, kids that work for us, student athletes, it's all, the same, but with little different nuances.
One time I asked a dumb question to you when you were clearly stressed. This is when I was probably 19 years old. So this is now at least 6 years ago. I asked a dumb question to you, and you, in all fairness, rightfully gave it the response that it deserved. And ever since then, my first 2 years as a student, I don't want to say afraid, but I would say respectfully afraid. And it wasn't until I started getting better that I understood where you were coming from. And now I see the way that students are, because I have to get some separation from there. And it's like, wow, how do you not get more frustrated more often sometimes? But it is with a loving guiding hand that I think you bring all of us along, because you never know who's going to stick around for a while.
No, it's, and like, yeah, I mean, I try not to be too harsh, but just when it comes with the hours and a lot of the effort and chaos in this job, a lot of times you just can't help, just like coaching. That's why, like, SIDs and coaches a lot of times are kind of like just go in parallel, because there's a lot of things that we're dealing with that are very much on brand for what they deal with.
Amongst the other things that you're known for, aside from the game notes and the general vitality, there's also the fact that you bake. And one of the most pleasant surprises for people who cover UMass hockey games at the Mullen Center is a lot of the times you walk up the 20 step or the 50 steps or whatever to get to press row. And there on the left side, kind of towards the student section, is a Tupperware full of apple crumble blondies, or cinnamon molasses sugar cookies, or red velvet frosted cupcakes. When did this start for you? And why, or what does it give to you, not just to us who eat them, but why do you stick with it? Because it's an amazing aspect for our game day.
So it's actually rooted in the fact that my boss as a student at Boston University, the legendary Hall of Famer Ed Carpenter, his wife Susie always made a coffee cake for Friday home games. And then Ed always brought donuts from the same place. And it was just kind of, for anybody that hasn't been in the Walter Brown press box at BU, it was this kind of nice little cozy sort of, Friday night intimate atmosphere. And you just had these nice sweet treats and the smell of coffee and everything there. And it was like, some places are fortunate enough to be able to do media meals or whatever. And, being that especially once we're no longer able to provide that, I wanted to continue the tradition of something that I loved when I was a student, but also just, have something there for the people that were coming out to cover our games.
Well, it really makes it worthwhile. And a lot of times I come back for seconds. So it's much appreciated. You have gotten the chance to work with a lot of players too. And obviously when you spend a lot of time on the road with players, when some of them intern in your office, you develop a working and emotional connection to these guys. What has been, who are some of the players who have worked in your office, and what is it like seeing them, kind of leave UMass and then go on to, in some cases, win the Stanley Cup, for example?
Oh gosh. Frank Vetrano worked for us, and I was able to actually go to a game when we were out at the Vegas tournament and interview him afterward. And just seeing his face light up when I walked in the room and give him a big hug is after all these years is crazy. And now thinking about the kid that used to come in my office and I used to teach Photoshop to, now has 2 children and is an NHL all-star. It's crazy. But, beyond just hockey, when I first started, like Liam Cohen was interning with us in our office, and now he's coaching in the NFL. Like, it's wild to see just where some of our former student athletes have ended up. But yeah, I mean, gosh, there was a run there for a while where like there were a lot of kids that came through our door. Like hockey, it was used to be a no-brainer for a lot of people, because before the days of online learning, we were very adaptive with them. If they were finishing their season and going and signing an AHL deal or whatever, like Joel Hanley would be one that I distinctly remember doing this. Is I knew he was going to be signing. I made photocopies of every UMass hockey roster ever, all of the ones that we could find. And I said, your project for the rest of the semester is to put these into an Excel doc so they're all the same format and they're all together. So he did that on bus rides in the AHL while working towards finishing his final semester of college. But so it's, and like we did put them to work when they were in there. They were doing everything from that to helping out at games. And actually Steve Maslers, that's on our staff now, was another one of my interns, and we'll occasionally joke about that. How he was like, I was writing about the opponent for the games that I was playing in for the weekend for the website.
Well, I have two more questions for you. One's fun,
Sure.
and then one's informative. I'll do the informative one first so we can end on a fun note. As you know, I ask Greg Carvel mostly informative questions, and then every once in a while I'll kind of I'll push my luck if it's a good day. But anyways, a lot of people don't understand, I think, the depth of the SID job, sort of like we were talking about before. And I was wondering, for you right now, with men's lacrosse season, another sport that you have is about to start in a couple of weeks. You're also, of course, with UMass hockey. Walk me through what a sort of Monday through Sunday work week looks like for you. Assume we're coming off of a Friday, Saturday
Sure.
hockey series.
Sure. So like, and with the crossover, it's not terribly different. It's just a matter of a little bit more juggling. But Sunday, if you were lucky enough to have a good weekend, you're doing your weekly nominations for the league for UMass Athlete of the Week. Then Monday, it's a lot of just setting your plan for what content you're going to have going out for the week. If you have award winners, those releases and graphics are getting done on a Monday. Tuesday is our traditional day for media for hockey. So, and I also have a decent amount of meetings on Tuesdays, but in between, I'm trying to get a crack away at the game notes. I've tried to, I've been blessed with a great student assistant who's my right hand, Ethan Morin, who helps a lot on the game notes now. So we're fortunately able most weeks to knock out the game notes by Wednesday to get them in the broadcaster's hands well in advance of playing on Friday. So that kind of becomes, the Tuesday, Wednesday aspect of getting all the game notes updated, and then getting it out online into the media by Wednesday. Thursday becomes kind of just your catch all day, and doing things like credentials and your parking list and your seating cards and all that type of stuff. Or like, if it's a week where we're on the road, usually we're traveling to wherever we're going on a Thursday. And then games Friday, Saturday, and then you just rinse and repeat, do it all over again. But, I like, not to say I did enjoy my time working with basketball, but the thing I really appreciate about hockey and lacrosse is the games are on the same. You don't have any, or I shouldn't say you don't, but there's only a couple times a year where you're dealing with like, okay, we're playing on a Wednesday or this, that, or the other thing. It's pretty much the same days every week. So you could kind of have that nice routine schedule and just kind of plug along and go through, which, I mean, you got to be able to get into the nice rhythm with how long the hockey season is. It's the longest of any college sports season. So
Yeah, I mean,
you're there for the long haul.
we had media day on the 3rd week of September, and if all goes well, it's not going to be over until at the very least early April. So it's basically
Yep.
a full year sport. My last
Yep.
question for you is a two-parter. One, you've gotten to experience a lot of barns, a lot of rinks with this team, and also in your days as a player. What is your favorite place to watch a game? Of course, outside of the friendly confines of the Mullins Center.
That's tough. Providence has elite chairs. Those chairs are so comfortable.
But Jill, they have the loudest goal horn in the world. It is so loud.
The seats are elite. That's one thing I will say. Gosh, like, yeah, I mean, that might be in league. That's probably my favorite trip. Like, I mean, I like going to Vermont, but that's more about like everything that's with it. And I like the aspect of going for 2 games and not just one. And, you know, you get a little bit of time in Burlington and more time on the road with the team and, you know, sort of spending time around people. But yeah, I don't know. I like watching, other than the goal horn, like I love watching games in Schneider Arena.
The other problem with Schneider is that every once in a while, the Friar in its giant Friar mascot costume will sneak up behind you and give you a real shock. Because I got to say, if you're locked into a game and a giant Dominican Friar costume, like, and it's huge and it's scary, taps you on the back, you're going to jump a little. But that's just personal experience. So we learned it's all about the chairs. The last one for you. If you could change any hockey rule, it could be as big or small as you want. What would be your commissioner of NCAA or the NHL or the PHL? Like, what are you changing?
Oh gosh. Well, thankfully we don't have the delay a game rule that's in the NHL with firing the puck out, because that's horrible. But gosh. Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe I'm not really in love with the new overtime format. I'm not in love with shootouts. You know, maybe that's Greg Carvel rubbing off on me. I don't know. But like, it's sometimes, especially if you just get 2 teams that are just trying to be conservative, especially on our large ice, it could just get a little dull, you know, the 3-on-3, but that's me. Maybe that's me being old fashioned, but I did like the 5-on-5 overtime and no shootouts. So, go away. I don't need shootouts.
Oh, especially for the Bean Pot. Any in-season tournament should not have a shootout, but
yes,
without a doubt. Jill, thank you so much for hopping on. Normally, you're the one facilitating the interviews, and it's been fun to be able to. Normally, like, I'm working with you. It's been nice to talk to you in this setting too. It's a real rarity, but you've been really helpful as far as just like, helping my development and also like my professionalism over the years too. And so I just wanted to say that I appreciate that as well. And our Christmas gift from the media is coming to you, I believe, hopefully on Saturday night. So thank you. Maisie is the real winner, but thank you.
Well, thank you so much for sitting and having a conversation with me today. It's always fun to sit and talk with my lovely friend and broadcaster.
I agree. Jill, if people want to reach out to you, they'll find you on social media. Jill's work. Now you know a little bit about the woman behind the UMass hockey socials, the game notes, the esoterica, the history, and of course the baked goods. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you next week on the NewMass Minute. UMass with games tomorrow, Friday, at North Andover, or rather at Merrimack in North Andover, 7 o'clock puck drop, 6:30 Milton Cat pregame show, and then back at the Mullins Center on Saturday, 7 o'clock puck drop against the Warriors again. We'll see you all next time.